Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sacred Timings with Swati. I'm Swati Kameswar, and in this video, we are going to be talking about the massive energies that we are experiencing these days, the upcoming eclipse season, as well as topics like karma and resolving karma through intentional acts of creativity and utilizing creativity to change your consciousness. So, quite a lot planned for this video. Let's get down to it. So, just a quick recap, we are in this massive tunnel of transformation for the next month. And truth be told, the um, energies have just been magnifying and amplifying for the last many months. In fact, I think every day that goes by, it's the most light that we have experienced on this planet ever. So, these dates that are given here, they're just meant as guidelines, but just understand that it's all mixed up. So, on any particular day, you could be feeling a lot of stuff, and we might also be feeling the collective energies because everything is so heightened right now. But remember that when you know what's going on, when there's awareness of what is going on, it just gives us a sort of an anchor point. It just gives us some way to move through it consciously. And I think one thing to keep in mind is that we really want to strive to be conscious every moment of our day. The days of being unconscious, walking unconsciously through these times are really gone, and the energy is showing us that. That's why it brings up so much to the surface. So generally there is a feeling of transformation in the air. Again, that's been heightened for a while already, and it is just kind of magnifying as we get closer to the eclipse window. Now, this is a sacred portal for death and rebirth. That means the old ways are dying and the new is being reborn, and it's all happening at the same time. And usually, when that happens, emotions are heightened. So, take note of what's going on for you. Particularly, some things to keep in mind is that Venus is in the underworld. That means she's very close to the sun, and the exact meeting with the sun is on October 22nd. So that is the midpoint of Venus's cycle, 19-month cycle, and that is literally a burning off of old patterns, old values, old ways of being, old desires. So there can be a lot of grief that comes up with it. So be aware of what's coming up in your life to be purged. Continue to purge what is not aligned with you, aligned for you, and notice what new desires are coming to the surface. We also have Mars in transition from the Aries focus to the Gemini focus. Mars is going to turn retrograde very soon. And again, there, notice where you are being called to create change in your life, like actively create change and up level the action in your life. And of course, next week we have the eclipse window starting on Tuesday with the solar eclipse. And eclipses are heightened, again, they are heightened portals for change where your reality can change very quickly. So old doors close, but new pathways also open. So a good strategy to have on hand is to be flexible, aware, and conscious, and also excited. It's actually a great time to be alive. No matter what emotions are coming up, it's actually there is so much to look forward to, despite the intensity of the energy. So let's get started and talk about the Scorpio new moon solar eclipse. So the map here, the diagram here has all the details. It happens on October 25th, early in the morning, depending on your time zone, and it happens at 2 degrees of Scorpio. So the moon is at 2 Scorpio, sun of course is with the moon. Now it's conjunct Venus because Venus is just a few minutes away from the exact degree of the eclipse, and she has just met the sun, so she's still in that underworld phase, very, very heightened. So, and Pluto has turned direct, Saturn has also turned direct by then. There is this underworld energy really amplified, and that underworld energy means that it is a diving deep of all the darkness. And of course, we do this individually first, and then of course it shows up as a collective energy as well. But then it's about diving deep into all the stuff that we have suppressed, all the things that we've hidden, the darkness, the negativity, and really honestly taking a look at the truth and purging that, composting that, so that a new truth can emerge. So the theme of this eclipse is actually this whole eclipse window, and that's the theme. in my personal opinion and experience, that's been the theme for this entire eclipse, with South Node in Scorpio and North Node in Taurus. The whole theme has been the right use of your life force energy. The essence of Scorpio is your life force running freely. That means it is not blocked. And when it's not blocked and it's running freely, you are able to experience emotions, the intensity of the emotions, and there is no stagnation of that emotion. There's no stagnation of that life force. So you are able to experience passion and really feel and live life from a place of passion. So remember, all of these things don't mean that your life is like that. It means that that is what we're aspiring to. So if you don't feel passion in your life, that's exactly what these eclipse windows are meant for. They're meant to help you shift whatever is going on in your life so that you can experience more passion. And Scorpio is so much about this creative life force being fully active in your body, in your life, and there's a deep connection to divine creator energy because that is what the life force is all about, right? It's the impulse to create. Um, the shadow of Scorpio can show up as the life force being blocked. That means you don't feel passion, you don't feel a sense of aliveness. And it could be that there are certain areas of your life where you don't feel that. It could be that you do feel passion in some areas and in some areas you don't. And so that is the invitation here to take a look at what is out of balance, what is out of alignment, which area of your life is out of alignment. And a lot will depend on where 2 degrees of Scorpio falls in your natal chart, right? This is a massive new beginning in that area of your life means that it's inviting you to create passion in that life, and that means to compost or to let go of or to surrender the stuff that is blocking that life force. Uh, the the shadow of Scorpio can also show up as not feeling the freedom. The life force is not flowing freely, so you might not feel a sense of freedom to allow that life force to flow due to control, manipulation. There can be all sorts of emotions like fear, anxiety, doubt. There can also be a lot of emotions that have not been resolved, like grief, anger, judgment, guilt. Anything to do with the lower level emotions that have not been resolved can absolutely stagnate the life force energy. Shame is another one. And all of these unresolved emotions are connected to karmic patterns. And we're going to be talking about that in a few slides later when we talk about resolution of karma. So just notice what is coming up for you. What emotions, where do you get triggered? What emotions come up that are not being allowed to flow in a healthy way? If you feel anger, for example, um, we want to be able to feel that anger whenever it comes up. You want to be able to feel it because the moment you start to stop it, the moment you start to suppress it, that goes into your body and it starts to stagnate your life force energy. It just puts a damper on that. So we have to learn new ways and healthy ways to express those emotions and to let them flow. We don't want to dump it on anybody, but honoring our emotions is absolutely key. So a good question to ask yourself is, are you doing what makes you feel alive in every area of your life? This is an upleveling of every single area, because everything is connected. So what is it in your life that is lacking that feeling of aliveness, where you feel like the energy is dipped, the life force is dipped? There's just no energy there. And there can be a lot of our life that can feel this way because we've just gone through so much change in the last few years. And this is again, it's an invitation to be conscious every moment, make the refinements in your life, make the changes so that you keep coming back into alignment, or at least closer to alignment with every day, every moment, and every day. All right, so the next eclipse, 2 weeks after the solar eclipse, is the Taurus full moon, lunar eclipse. Now, here we have the sun in Scorpio and the moon in Taurus at 16 degrees. Venus is still conjunct the Sun, just barely 4 degrees away, still in the underworld, and full moons and lunar eclipses typically bring us very clear endings. So you might be in the next few weeks, you might get aware, or you might already be aware of unhealthy desires and unhealthy habits that are not aligned with your truthful values. So often we may not be clear about what is truly important to us, and so the actions that we take in our life may not align to that because we're not clear. And um, when you become clear, it takes us some time to align our habits and our routines and our ways of being to those values. So this period gives us that push of energy to bring an end to unhealthy ways of being. Again, it comes back to that life force energy, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. But I just want to go through all the individual transits or the individual aspects that are they're adding their flavor to this Taurus full moon. So we have Sun, Moon in Taurus, we have Venus conjunct the Sun, so still a very underworld time. We have Mercury conjunct the Sun at 15, Mercury's at 1554, almost like so close to the Sun. This is Mercury is about our perception, and so purifying our perception. Can we see beyond the facade of truth that is in front of us, the facade of untruth that is in front of us? Can we perceive the hidden realms, the truth behind this facade? So it's remember we've been talking about the new Gaia realms and the new Earth and all of that. That's already there. That already exists, and there are so many who already experience that. And so that is a matter of updating our perception to be able to perceive that higher vibration, because we are then residing in that higher vibration to be able to perceive it. So Mercury conjunct the Sun allows it gives us the intention is to purify our perception so we can see the truth behind the current reality, or the current or whatever reality that you are experiencing. Now, the moon at 1601 Taurus is also conjunct Uranus, so quite a lot of so many aspects to this particular full moon lunar eclipse. And Uranus is about freedom and breaking free from the past. So remember, resolving karma is freedom to move ahead into the new age. And eclipses are these heightened phases and these like it's like a tightening of the energy to push us through this doorway very quickly. And when we are living out a lot of our karmic patterns, then we don't feel free to move ahead into the new age, into the new vibration, because we are still being held back by those old patterns. We're still stuck there in the past. So, Uranus conjunct the moon gives us that opportunity to move away. Now, the light on the planet has increased to such a level that karma is actually dissolving. That means in this lifetime, we have an opportunity to completely resolve our old patterns, and we'll go more into detail on how exactly does karma show up? Like, how do you know you're still living out a pattern? Um, Resolving those old patterns gives you the freedom to do something new in this life. And that's the whole idea about this life force energy, that the life force energy is not being drained into feeding past patterns, but it is actually being used to create the new that allows you to reside in the new age. It allows you to reside with a new vibration and actually feel that no matter where you physically are present. Um, at the time of the lunar eclipse, Jupiter has re entered Pisces, and Pisces is about that authentic connection to Divine Creator. There's also a ton of energy of surrender and forgiveness in the air. You might have already felt the heightening of emotions by this time. In fact, the full moon lunar eclipse can be even more heightened. Of We can experience more heightened emotions due to the full moon. So, with Jupiter having re entered Pisces by that time, there is this sense of ending, like everything is ending. Forgiveness, what would you, how would you be if you realize that this was your last life living karma, right? There's a sense of forgiveness. You want to resolve. There's a sense of resolution of everything. And we can't go into a new age if we are still carrying resentment, and we are not being able to forgive ourselves or others. Again, that's a theme that we'll talk about in the karma slides. And at this point, Mars is retrograde, is changing, getting ready to change from the Aries focus to the Gemini focus. So the next couple of years of the Mars cycle is going to be amplifying the Gemini energies. And this is about perception of duality shifting to incorporate the perception of unity consciousness. That means we sort of stop being attached to either this or that and just have a more inclusive perspective, and and as a result of that perception change, we are able to perceive the new Gaia realms. So much going on with these two eclipses. And again, the theme with the Taurus full moon lunar eclipse is about the life force energy. It's about finding delight in life because the North Node is with Taurus at this time. Taurus is about really enjoying the physical experience and experiencing passion as a default because you are finding the delight in life. There's also a new way of thinking of security and stability. What does that mean to us? And that to be resourced from within and not based on our fears, on our possessions, not on lack. We try to, so much of our, so many actions are coming from a place of fear of lack. So shifting that completely to come from the sense of true abundance from within. And with Taurus, it's all about that deep connection to the higher realms of Gaia. They already exist, and can we connect to it? So, updating our perception centers to tune into the higher realms of Gaia that are already there. Okay, now let's talk about karma and its resolution. I felt like this is a really important topic because uh, there is this is such a beautiful time to be alive because there is an opportunity to resolve this forever. And in fact, people have asked me this many times. This was also a big focus of my own transformation when I first got to know about astrology, and I first realized that I was going through Pluto transits. This was back in 2015. And what I noticed at that time was that I had this urgency to complete lessons. Like I could not give language to it at that time because I was still learning a lot about, I just awakened and I was still learning about new earth and the change, the moving from one age to another and all of that. And without even understanding all of that, there was this urgency to wipe everything clean, like wipe the slate clean. And I understood years later that we're actually in this massive transition phase. Humanity is in this massive transition phase from the Kali Yuga to Satyug, and it's the end of Kali Yuga. That means there's a resolution of karma, and going forward, we don't have karma. That means we don't have lifetimes to come back and repeat our lessons and so on the way that we've been doing so far, because the amount of light on this planet is such that we actually have the opportunity to resolve it in this lifetime. So, hence, I was feeling that urgency from deep within. But what I've come to understand karma as is that it's unresolved energy in our system that is looking for resolution, and that unresolved energy is not aligned with divine love. So anything that is not aligned with love comes up to be resolved. And that's what we see as lessons to be learned, right? That's what comes up in our life as lessons to be learned. And how does this unresolved energy show up? It'll show up as mental, emotional, physical issues. It very, very, very often shows up as relationship problems because that's how we learn about love. That's how we learn about unity consciousness. It's through our relationships and all the problems that we face in our relationships. They will eventually, the bottom line there is that we are meant to learn about love and honoring the uniqueness and honoring ourselves. And hence, when we honor ourselves, we can honor the opposite person. Um, Unresolved energy also shows up as repeated patterns. In fact, karma will often be, it is actually just repeated patterns showing up again and again, and that's a great clue. All of these things are actually great clues to understanding where you might be stuck and where that resolution is needed before you can move on. And these repeated patterns, it can show up as addictions, loops that are hard to come out of, like, habits and patterns that are really hard to come out of. And why is this important? Because we have an opportunity in this lifetime to resolve all of that and move on to the new. And eclipse portals are great for actively taking the steps to resolve this energy. Now, depending on what's going on in your natal chart, if you have 2 degrees, 16 degrees of Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, Leo, or other places where you have planets in your natal chart, it may happen anyway. Or if you have other big transits going on like Pluto, Chiron, and all of that, this opportunity to resolve the energy that comes up in the form of lessons to learn may happen anyway, but when you're conscious about it, it makes it so much better. And I feel like it does, you know, uh, If you're consciously working on it, there's a commitment to it, then you can move through the lessons more quickly. I'm not saying it's easy. It does take courage to face it, but you're going to have to do that anyway. So might as well be conscious about it, right? So, and I always tie this back to our life purpose. Like, what is our life purpose? And I think ultimately, no matter how you express your life purpose through whatever profession or work that you do, the ultimate game is about connecting ourselves back to source, like recognizing that we are divine source, a spark of divine source expressing in this human form, and that love of source is a fundamental thing that we've come here to learn. And everything else is just, it's a way it expresses, but the ultimate lesson is the love of source, source itself, and coming back into sovereignty, where um, you're expressing as source, you have the courage to express as source, and you have that immense love for source is a big part of our purpose. It's very hard to feel yourself as source if you're not sovereign. And that is where these lessons will show up in relationships where we don't feel sovereign, or other issues in our life or other situations where we don't feel like we have freedom and that sovereignty. And so all of these things need to be resolved. All these stories and patterns need to be resolved. Otherwise, the past is keeping us stuck. Like we are stuck in the past and we're not able to take advantage of this new energy and move ahead and create our life with the new. So, how do we resolve it? Take a look at all the things that were mentioned in the slide and notice where does this show up for you. And you probably already know if you've been watching my work for a while, you already are probably quite aware of the kind of karmic patterns you have. And when you realize you have a pattern, I think the number one thing is making a commitment to back yourself up. That, no matter what it takes, you're going to support yourself to move through it, no matter how long it takes, right? Time is just, it's something that we play in this realm, in this physical realm. But the unconditionality is the most important thing, that unconditional love for yourself to move through whatever you're going through, and no matter how long it takes, that unconditional love is what is going to allow you to bring that thing to a resolution. And giving yourself support, treating yourself with compassion, whatever issues you're going through, that compassion and that unconditional love is absolutely essential. You cannot hope, we cannot hope to resolve our personal karma if we don't show compassion to ourselves, because again, that is coming back to a lack of love for source. The lack of self love is a lack of love for source. That means you don't recognize yourself as source. So, that unconditional love and compassion is absolutely essential. One of the other things that is essential, I feel, is emotional clearing. That means noticing what is triggering you and moving through those emotions to come to a place of neutrality. Because when you come to a place of neutrality is when that issue is resolved. Like, there's no polarity of like, okay, this it's bad or good. It is just neutral. And that continuous emotional clearing, um, I won't say continuous, but like consistent emotional clearing whenever that comes up, being very aware of what triggers you, who triggers you, that is essential, because we cannot hold a space of all inclusive love if we are getting triggered this way or the other. So, these two things are, I feel, in my personal experience, consistently practicing that, the emotional clearing and the unconditional love and compassion and support for yourself, were absolutely essential to move through some very tough things in life. Um, Now, another strategy that may work is connect to the highest truth for yourself. What is the highest truth for you? And let that be the guiding light for you during this passage. Let that be the thing that, it's like this light at it's kind of guiding you through this entire tunnel of transformation and beyond, and start creating the new. When you start to create a new experience of yourself for yourself, you're breaking the old pattern, and then that starts to bring you out of that loop. All right, so one thing that I want to talk about, as part of this slide is as part of this video, is creativity to shape consciousness. One thing that has greatly helped me on my journey was to reconnect to my creativity. And it really awakened in the past 6 years. I went through big transits like Pluto and Chiron and all that. And it really enabled me to go through those really tough transits with way more heart than was otherwise possible. So I'm sharing here in the next few slides a lot of the work that I had created during that time that was created intentionally to work with transits and to invite the highest essence of transits. So I'm just going to very briefly share what this concept is. So basically, the idea is that first you have an awareness of the transit that you're going through. Like, maybe you have Pluto on your ascendant or something like that, or Neptune on your ascendant, or whatever it is. And remember that the transit is actually awakening a part of your consciousness. It's not there to make your life difficult. It's not there to, of course, it shows up as karmic patterns, like, repeated patterns, what we just talked about. But really, it's awakening a part of your consciousness that may need to be fully expressed. And when you utilize intuitive creativity to awaken that part of you, you really start to take the reins. And rather than be at the effect of it, you start to cause things in your life to happen. And holding the intention to experience the highest aspect is really key. So if somebody is going through a Neptune transit or a Pluto transit, emotions are going to be a part of that thing. But you don't want to be focusing on the fact that you're going to have a lot of emotions come up, or it's going to be like an emotional roller coaster. You don't want to focus on the intensity of emotions. You want to work with the emotions, but you want to also focus on what is the highest gift of that transit. And holding that intention to experience the highest aspect is really key. Here I have some artwork that I created when I was going through a Uranus transit. Here there was some Venus aspects here, Scorpio, and so on. But each time I was holding the intention to experience the best. Move through the emotions quickly, but also experience the best. Learn the lessons, but I want the gift, right? That's why we are in this game. Like, we want to experience the highest gift of it. And when you start to paint, you ask yourself, what is the intention for this painting? Is it to release emotions? Is it to strengthen a relationship? Is it to activate and step into your gifts? Transit through tough times with grace? Is it to create something new in your life? So getting really clear on what do you want to experience from this painting and from this transit can help. So a lot of these paintings were created that way. This bottom left, trust. I was going through some sort of a Neptune phase at that point, and this labyrinth was really about, I'm going through these tunnels. I can't see the end of the way, end of the tunnel, but I trust that something in me is guiding me through it. And creating this mandala during that time really amplified that feeling of trust that I was okay, I was going to be okay. These bottom two paintings I did after I had worked with the Venus cycle very consciously, and I realized I had received so many gifts from that transit, and it was a way to sort of ground those gifts that I had received. I was stepping into a brand new phase with new gifts, and I was acknowledging that through the painting. So it kind of made the whole thing very real for me. And actually, back this painting on the left, I did it with my daughter. It was kind of a collaborative painting. That's why there's a unicorn right in the middle of that. Uh, and it created such tenderness. Like, I realized that, wow, I really love this. And this is a way that I can be with my daughter and we can both do things that we enjoy together. So that was, the intention there was to strengthen that relationship with her. So what happens when you create in this way is that there's a massive process happening in our brain and in our consciousness behind the scenes when you work in this way. It starts to speak to your consciousness and starts to shape it because it starts to make it real. What you are acknowledging and putting down and painting, your optic nerve takes that in, your brain takes that in, your consciousness starts to see that as real, and then new neural pathways get created in the brain to expand that outcome because you're focusing on that. So there's an expansion of that intention that you are holding. And that expansion allows you to step into the new. It kind of pulls you away from the old to step into a new reality. Um, here are some more paintings that I have created that have been very intuitive, but as well as intentional. The bottom right was actually one of the very first ones I did using the process of intentional creativity as taught by Shiloh Sophia, and it actually happened by accident. I actually dropped black paint on the cardboard, and that black paint then eventually turned into these planetary symbols. And that's what I realized that the painting was trying to tell me. It was actually pointing me to my new gifts at the time. Um, and this one on the top left is the one I have recently completed as part of my intentional creativity painting. And that is meant to amplify my intention as a sound healer, as well as to acknowledge that Gaia is now emanating new songs and new harmonics and new vibrations, and that we can tap into it. So every time I look at that painting, it's a reminder to me that the new Gaia realm already exists, and I can tap into that consciousness every time, anytime that I want to. So, creativity to shape your consciousness is a beautiful way to start to create the new and to pull yourself away from the old, you know, in a very life affirming way. All right, so I hope that has given you some insights into your own journey, and please share whatever resonated for you from these concepts that we just talked about. Okay, now we're coming to the end of the video, and I wanted to share with you that I'm working on a new course offering called Speaking Your Authentic Truth. And this is about really upleveling our expression, our communication, um, honoring our sacred expression, and noticing if we are communicating from the wound and transmuting that into our authentic expression. So I am doing some research on this, and if you would like to speak to me about that, it's of all complimentary, of course. You can sign up for a brief 20-minute chat on this particular topic. You can email me at swati@activateyourtruthandpower.com to set up a time to talk. And that's it for this month. Wishing you an absolutely beautiful, beautiful eclipse season, and may you align with your highest path through this time. And there are some ways that I've listed here where we can keep in touch. Wishing you the very best and lots of love. Thank you.